Welcome to Southern Creator Channel. My name is Alan. Today we're going to do something a little different than my normal Star Wars themed stuff. Today is going to be the old castle theme. I was born in '84, so a long time ago, and I got my first Lego sets in '88. They were generic pieces, and then in 1989 my mom really kicked it into high gear. On my birthday and Christmas, I started getting one of the best themes of all time, Castle. My very first set in 1989 at 5 years old, I was in kindergarten, was the Knights Challenge. Excellent, excellent little set. And then second after that was, I believe it was called the Black Monarch's Castle, something like that. Had a ton. It was like something like 16 minifigs, one of the best sets Lego ever released back then. And I have subsequently lost most of those minifigs. I have been replacing them from Bricklink over the years. But anyway, one of my favorite, my two favorite factions in the castle theme back then was the Black Falcons and the Forestmen. I think they were my favorites because I had the fewest of them, and so I coveted them the most. I had the bulk of my castle figs back then were the Crusader Knights, the Lion Knights, and then the original, I think they call them Black Knights, but they had the little dragon shields. Anyway, so today we're going to do something that I wished I could have done in my childhood, but quite simply did not have the minifigs or the pieces for. So we're going to build today a Forestman themed fountain. It's going to be a little hidden forest fountain. They've taken a mountain spring, turned it into a little hidden fountain in the woods. The Forestmen can come and get water and wash up, and just a nice little secluded place. Just a nice little interesting build today. Nothing really centered around a big castle or anything like that. It's castle theme, but that's what we're going to do because these days, 41 years old, so filming this video, I've got foliage and all the parts I need, and I've got new minifigs. I'm so thankful that Lego has brought back, they're bringing back the last few years the castle theme, the original castle theme. They still have yet to do my original Black Knights. They need to bring those boys back. But we've got the Lion Knight Crusaders. We have the Black Falcons, although the themes, the shields and all that are a little bit redesigned, but still we have them. We have the Forestmen are back. You can buy the shields on Bricklink. Fantastic. Because I think I might have only had one as a child, but now I've went and bought a ton of them on Lego.com, pick a brick. So I am satisfied now in my old age. I can build whatever I want. And like I said, build the things that I couldn't build as a child. I've talked enough. You're here to watch the build. Let's get started on this thing. All right, let us go ahead and start with a base here. We're going to do 4 8x8s by 3 8x8s plates. And here's the underside, nothing too fancy. We're going to use some of these modified plates with the studs oriented towards the bottom. And we'll go ahead and also get a nice border put on here. I would do black as I normally do, but my black pieces are tied up in another build right now. So we'll just use the light gray here. It'll work out fine. Now that that is there, we will start with our centerpiece and build around it. Our fountain will go here. We'll build a couple archways, then we'll build some structure around it and go from there. So nice, quick, good, fast start. Okay, let's get started on our fountain. All right, so here's the smallest arch. That's at the back, and we'll go ahead and put a backdrop in here. What we'll have here, this little peg is going to be for a shield in here. We'll start a fountain where a spring is right there from the mountain. And we'll go ahead and finish up with putting this over here. And we got a couple different arches in here, and we'll have one more, and then it'll look like it's been carved out of the mountain. The next thing we're going to start doing is building, just giving some structural stability here. And I'm going to go ahead and just knock the rest of this out real quick, and we'll come back here in a moment. Okay, so we are done. We're done now putting the structural foundation around the fountain itself. Now I will build 2 structural bases on either side of it. Come back in just a second and look at those. All right, so the centerpiece of the build, the fountain itself, is established. Now, I have just built some very simple structural bases for our mountainside here. Go ahead and put that one on. You'll notice I've got modified bricks on the front where we will build and attach in a modular fashion our mountainsides here, so we can do this nice and easy in portioned work. There we go. Now let's go ahead and finish off this top piece, and then we'll begin, or we'll finish up our fountain area, and then we'll begin the bigger terrain pieces. All right, so we've got this built up now. We're going to go ahead and start putting the rest of our fountain together. I'm going to start with the basin down here. Just get this in here very quickly. I'll put some water in. All right. Go ahead and do this. And just about done. Bear with me. And let's go ahead and finish that out right there. All right. Now, for the font itself, let's go ahead and attach this in right here. Very good. Do y'all like the look at that? I think that's cool. Now, we are going to have water running down from the mountain spring into the fountain itself. So I have built some pieces here. Here we go. And more running water pieces to show it running down into our little basin below. All right. Now, one of the things we're going to do, because this is a Forestmen's fountain, they're going to have their personal touch. I just love these little shields. Back when I was a child, I might have had one or two of these, but now that Lego is reproducing the old 80s and early 90s Lego castle figs, not all of them, they're not there yet, you know, with the Dragon Knights and all that. They need to still make those, but for now, as of making this video, we do have these and the new style of Black Falcons. These are the same identical print from 40 years ago. And you also have the Crusader lions that they've brought back, also basically identical. Anyway, enough of that. There's our basis for our fountain. Now we can build the next level of facade, put one more arch in there, and then we'll have this done. Okay? Okay, so here's our initial stages of the fountain water, spring water. Let's go ahead and get these last few pieces put on here. We're going to have this be kind of a pool right here where the fountain's coming out of the mountain spring. And I have also finished the facade. So we're going to end up having 3 rows of arches, smaller, whoops, going out to larger. Let's go ahead and see if this fits on here. And I just kind of put random parts and tiles together. See if I can do this one-handed. Right, good. Good, that covers everything up just right. Okay, good. Now, let's expand this out, right? And then we're gonna put some macaroni tiles around here and see if we can get this fountain flushed out. Okay, so we've got our base in here, basically, and we're gonna meld this into a pathway right here. We can go ahead and get done now. This is really gonna bring this fountain out. These last few pieces here. This is gonna look so good. Get this on top of our water. Look at that. Now, the centerpiece for the build is basically done. Obviously, we've got spots in here for some ivy, but There's the fountain. Look at that. Mountain spring, fountain built around it. Fantastic. Okay. Let us move on to our the mountainsides here. Okay, we are ready to put our mountainside in. Okay, I've just kind of built this out. The implication being that, and I've already put some tile down and made sure it all fits correctly. But now you can see as we install these, just get these pushed on here, you can see that what we're going for is that this is a mountain spring that was carved out of mountain, turned into a fountain, a secret fountain for our Forestmen faction that they can come to. And yeah, so there we go. That's good. And we will continue with building the rest of our mountain face up on the top of this. But now we've got the flanking sections of rock for our fountain. I like this. All right, so what I'm doing now is putting plate down up here, put wedge tiles along here, and then we'll build a layer of sloped dark bluish gray, maybe 2 layers, and go from there. All right, as you can see, we've got our wedge plates down in the front, and we are working our way across like so, putting in our pieces across here to get just a little bit of frontage on the top of this mountainside here, and then we'll cover it with some plants. But let's go ahead and get this first level done. There's our first layer. Let's go ahead and get our second layer done. Okay, we're done with this top section of this rock. And now what I want to do before we get to foliage, we're going to start building this pathway out. We're going to have forest over here, and we're going to have a pathway coming up to the fountain. So let's start on the pathway. All right, so you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I'm going to take where the mountain rock carved out was and blend it into something of a cobblestone forest path, right? And we're going to keep fleshing it out. One thing I'll say here too, and I keep a bag of just these little tiles of all shapes and sizes and colors. I don't sort these out, and never neglect your small parts. Having little small parts like this is one of the best ways to add good detail to a build. As a child, I would just lose all my little small parts, but just keep this in mind. That's what I have found over the years, is just keeping these little small parts handy really makes a difference on a build. Let's go ahead and finish this out and see how it looks. All right, we are now done with our little cobblestone path, little stones in the forest that lead up to this thing. You can kind of see the idea here of the path. There's you know, the hewn out rock right here, and then it blends in with the path. You can kind of tell there's more greens and browns over here where we're going to put trees and plants and foliage, and you see little, you know, little patches of moss or whatever on some of the rocks. So this is a great start. We can now get into the plants. We are now ready to begin putting foliage in here. Foliage is one of the finer detail touches of any build, especially if you can afford to do it in a certain build. So what we're going to start doing is adding in our ground cover, right? Just really makes such a difference. And you notice I built some of these studs into the carved out sections of rock here, all right? And we'll put some of these in here. Turn that a little bit so we can fit another one in here. And we'll just keep going like so. And what we're gonna do also is start adding in some of these here. this creeping ivy and all that. And we'll just put these in as we go. And if you want to add just a little bit of an extra touch, you notice I've got actually two different shades. Maybe hard to see in my lighting here, but there's these darker leaves, and then I've got these lighter colors. I used to work at the Memphis Botanic Gardens. I have a big garden in my backyard that I still maintain. And new foliage green usually comes out a little lighter, so put in darker leaves under, lighter leaves on top, and it looks like the leaves are freshly growing on top of old growth, right? So just a neat little detail touch recommendation from me. Let's go ahead and fill. I won't bore us all with doing every single one of these right now. I'm going to go ahead and throw all these on and see how it turns out. I've said it once, I'll say it now, and I'm sure I'll say it again. Foliage really fleshes out, brings out a build. So we've got our creeping vines, our ivy, we have our ground cover. Now we are going to add a screen up here of small trees to disguise the mountains because we don't want to look much above here. And then we'll put our trees in and some more foliage down at the bottom level here. So let's get to that next part. What we need up top here is something of a screen, if you will. Add foliage up here, I don't know, like this maybe. And we're gonna have big trees out front. I'm gonna go ahead and add these in here because this is a mountainside, right? Picture somewhere like in southern France, something like that. Mountains, rocks, but very heavily forested. And we just want kind of a screen here because I'm not gonna build an entire mountain for this, but you'll get the idea. Once that's done, then we'll put our trees in. We now have our foliage on the top here, just as kind of a screen to fill up that area. Now what we can do is put our trees in. I have built two different types of trees. Got these kind right here, simple but elegant in my opinion, and a slightly different form of tree over here with the sand green leaves. All right, so let's go ahead and get these in. And I've also got a collection of these shrubs. I actually got a solid deal on these a couple of years ago, minus the brown ones, which I just bought on lego.com. All the rest, I got an entire bucket of these green ones. Some guy for a brief day had a sale for like 6 cents per shrub. I bought the whole lot. I pulled a Harry Potter and said, I'll take the whole trolley. So I'll have more of these than I'll ever need. Anyway, let's get these trees on here. Let's start here with this big one, work our way towards the front. Wonderful. That's got exactly the elevation that I want on that. We'll go ahead and add in our shrubs as well. Okay, and we'll have to kind of wedge this under here. Make sure they work with each other. Play nice. There we go. Okay. Whoops. Let me fix that real quick. Okay, there we go. It's hard to do that one-handed. All right, so let's finish up here and get this little guy in here. Now you'll notice something I'm doing. I'm putting these on these single stud round pieces. What that allows you to do is turn and shape the tree to the way it fits best. See, like this one here has got an angle on it. You can shape it and turn it so that everything's not at a 90-degree angle. Now let's go ahead and put these shrubs in and really flesh this out. Okay, got some spots in here. Whoop, go ahead, get in there. Good. And here's this one. And here is this one. Fantastic, fantastic. Look at that. That looks great. All right. I know I'm guilty of saying that when I do something, it looks wonderful, but I also criticize myself too. When something doesn't look good, I say so to myself and I redo it. But let's go ahead and get this one in. Come on. Get these pre-built and then put in here. And again, you set it like this so that you can turn these things at good angles, right? Let's go ahead and get one of these in here. All right. Let's take this. And because we've got these branches curved, we can just kind of fit him right in there. There we go. Yeah, turn that just ever so slightly. Fantastic. Get this one here. Put him in there. Let's have it angled a little bit forward. All right. And the idea is that this is one tree. This is one tree with multi-branches. But I guess you could think about it however you want. And then put that there. Let's have that aimed out like that. And look at that. Great. All right, now let's get this in here. This is fantastic. I love foliage. When I was a child back in the 80s and 90s, foliage was scarce. You know, you'd get a set with 2 or 3 leaves, you know, a couple of these pieces, and that was about it. And I never amassed a big collection back then. I have subsequently bought almost all this myself as an adult. So honestly, Lego's even more fun as an adult now in my 40s than when I was a kid. And I loved it as a kid, but I never quite had all the parts that I wanted or needed as a child. Not a complaint, it's just an observation. Look at that. I'm able to build things and do things now that I never could have done as a child. Even if I'd had the imagination back then for it, which I'd like to say I did, I still could not have ever approached building something like this as a kid. I love seeing builds come out at this stage of my life, what I can do. 'Cause you know what, if I don't have parts, I just go drop 50 bucks and get them. I just go get them. Whereas, you know, back in the 90s, you had to wait until you get the next big gift at Christmas or your birthday, and you hope you had some parts in it that were good. Build the set one time, then tear it down and throw them in the big pile. We all did it. So anyway, here we go. Time for minifigs. Let's get going on that. We are finally done with the build. It is truly amazing what foliage can do in a Lego build for really, really polishing everything up. And now, as my son and I always say to each other, minifigs are the best part, so we'll go ahead and get that done. I actually couldn't resist using one of my, if you look on Bricklink, one of the most expensive Forestmen figs that you can ever get at this point is this guy right here. It's like 30 or 40 bucks. Last time I looked on Bricklink, it's probably even more now. But anyway, I'm gonna put this guy in here. He's going to be right here. All right, there he is. Wonderful. And I've got a few more. We're gonna have a grand total of 4 figs. I think 4 is enough. This guy right here, we're gonna put him in here with a bucket. And he's gonna be welcoming some fellow Forestmen. All right, so there he is. He's got some, let's just say he's got some, he's got a bucket in here. We're gonna have some water in there. And something that I have been wanting to do with this build is put a Forestman on an elk. I mean, after all, the elk is on their logo. It's their shield. So I put a guy on an elk. I don't know why it's so interesting to me, the thought of riding a creature like this. But, you know, like Thranduil on his elk, or whatever that animal was in Battle of the Five Armies. I always thought it was very interesting. And you know, if you go to the zoo, like I go to the Memphis Zoo every once in a while with my kids, you go look at the elk, they are huge. Just a side note, they are gigantic animals. You know, we have a lot of, you know, white-tailed deer and other stuff here in the South, but there's nothing, you know, elk and moose are just enormous animals. So let's go ahead and put this guy in here like this. And as you can see, now it makes sense. He's riding up. Get some fresh spring water from the Forestman's hidden fountain. And he's going to be accompanied by one of his fine fellow traveler. And let's put him on the stud here. Here we go. He's got some little fruit with him. And now we have Forestmen meeting Forestmen. See if I can move this light here. There we go. And voila. We are done with our build. How about that? So yeah, we got our guys walking up here, have a small guard contingent at their hidden fountain, and fellow travelers through the forest coming in to get a drink, clean up. I love it. What a different little build that we have accomplished here than our normal Star Wars stuff. All right, let's roll the photos.